Well, hello, everybody. It's a full moon meetup. This is September's full moon eclipse 2025. We have a full moon north node eclipse in Pisces coming up. Here it is. Today is Friday, September 5th, and we're talking about Sunday, September 7th, around 2:10 in the afternoon. And so we're so happy you decided to join us, and you must be a fellow stargazer like we are. My name is Jennifer Barish, and this is Barbie Heffernan. We are with the Astro College, the International Academy of Astrology, and so we just say welcome. Barbie?
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. This is actually really going to be exciting new moon, full moon, and it is what's going on with this moon, Jennifer?
Oh my gosh. Well, just the fact that we're in the eclipse window, that we have a total eclipse with it, that says a lot. That means it packs an extra punch. And having it be in Pisces, being the 12th sign, that on the North Node. So it's calling us in a Piscean direction forward. It's incoming energy, new celestial energy coming in, new forms, new people, new events. So our listeners should be, or watchers should be looking for that. This moon has a Mercury signature because Mercury is standing nearby the sun in this eclipse and coming close up to Cazimi. So approaching Cazimi, giving a little clarity. And then we'll talk about Jupiter, Jupiter's blessing the whole thing. And then I always like to bring in a little medical astrology, compliments of Judith Hill. Oh, you can't see my book. Judith Hill writes a beautiful book on eclipses called Eclipses and You. And I like to uh, bring in some of that background because I think it helps to inform what we can expect. All things Piscean, a water sign, and having the moon in water, will affect the oceans, bodies of water, our emotions. But we'll cover all of that. So where do we want to start? Should we pull up the chart?
Yeah, I think we should pull up the chart because I also did the Sabian symbols for 15
Good.
Pisces as well. So that would be something can add on.
All
So,
right.
because we have that 15 Virgo Sabian symbol, and then we have the 15
Right.
Pisces Sabian symbol. And so, because when we look at this full moon, the moon is going to be at that 15 Pisces, right? And so
Right.
with 15
Right.
Pisces, that Sabian symbol is more about a fine lace ornamental handkerchief. It's called refinement and precision and in detail, that's going to be on that Virgo sun is more of that fine lace ornamental handkerchief. And the moon is going to be with the Pisces. And that's going to be more of that, an officer preparing to drill his men in discipline and readiness. So I had that kind of switched around. So again, the moon is the 15 Pisces, and it's the Sabian symbol, an officer preparing to drill his men for discipline and readiness and the call collective purpose. And the Sabian symbol for Virgo, the sun, right, as a fine lace ornamental handkerchief. So kind of think about that. And then the refinement of it and precision. So altogether, these symbols ask us to approach these obligations with both grace and structure, while the nodes remind us, because the nodes are involved in this because they're the points of the moon. They remind us to release the perfectionism and overanalyzing. That's that Virgo South node, to grow towards
Absolutely.
our empathy and higher vision to that Pisces North node.
Yeah, I love that. For people who aren't versed in astrology or just beginners, let's go back and think about what a full moon actually is. It's the sun and it's the moon, and you can see it in this chart, but they are opposite in the sky. So just like if you think about at Christmas time, you've got the South Pole where Santa Claus lives, and you've got a North Pole. They're opposite of each other. And those two energies, Pisces and Virgo, they're opposite. So they create a tension between those two thoughts. So you've got Virgo, the refinement, the detail oriented one, the thinking about topics related to health and to care and keeping and wellness. And I know many Virgos who are into organizing things like their spice rack in their kitchen, and they use label makers, and they have files for everything, and everything has a place and a space. And so with that, so that's on one end of the pole, the other end being Pisces. And Pisces is kind of the dreamer, it's the mystic, it's where's the magic that we can't explain, that we can't organize. It's that instinct and a gut feeling about something. So many times Pisces people are artists, they're musicians, they are creators, very creative people, and their process is not a straight line. Their process is kind of wavy, it's water, it kind of ebbs and it flows. And so those two are very different energies. And talking about the Sabian symbols, you've got, okay, if Virgo is the intricate fine lace, it's think about if you've ever crocheted something or you've knitted, all the attention to detail to make those little knots just perfect. Coming down with Pisces and Pisces energy, well, you've got an officer who is preparing his men, which you're thinking, okay, well, how does that fit into the mystic, the dreamer, the poet, the artist? Well, so there's preparation there. It's trying to pull ourselves up and get ourselves in some kind of order so that we can refine that, so that we can make that better. And sometimes that starts with a dream. I think that this moon, if I were gonna say like a major theme, and Barbie, you can speak to that as well. I think this is saying, the North Node is there. What direction are you going? It's time to get your dreams in order. It's time to
Yeah.
make a plan, you
Well,
know?
yeah, well, yes, and also in this whole piece, you can see where Mercury is, and then you can see also there's Pluto and Mercury that in that Virgo that highlights that clarity and that communication and need
Mm-hmm.
to sort things out and complete the paperwork. But then it goes over and there's, it goes over sextiles to Pluto and Aquarius and intensifies his compulsiveness and obsessiveness. You see that mini trine there?
Oh,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for
and so
sure.
Pluto represents that ancient pattern that resists that change and transformation. But then also you can see the Saturn's in this mini trine, and it's retrograde, right? And at
Mm-hmm.
29 Pisces, and it says conjunct the Neptune at 1 degree Aries, which makes this threshold structure and boundaries dissolve, as a new vision. Because Saturn wants to, get down to the essence, the foundation, what's going to last. It kind of structures and forms things. And Neptune is more of that dreams and visions and ideals.
Yeah,
And
Saturn is standing there right next to the
yeah,
moon and the
yeah. So
North
you
Node there in Pisces. So definitely going to have an influence
yeah,
for
that's all
sure.
that going to have some influence. That mini trine is going to influence this. And of course, this is special because it's in the eclipse, right? We have an eclipse going with this full moon, and this full moon eclipse is a Saros Series 9 New North, and it's by Bernadette Brady. She describes this series as one of where there's a long-standing issue that surfaces worries about your loved ones, your health, unfinished paperwork, or responsibilities that can no longer be delayed. So these matters come up to roost. So under
Mm-hmm.
this cycle, this brings a new need for honesty and resolution. And with that mini trine that you're saying, I think that's going to pull in. But there's also another little niche there. I don't know if you've seen it, Jen, that you also have this. If you look at Uranus, there's a sextile to Uranus, and Uranus
Mm-hmm.
is retrograde at one. And so that sextile meets at 1 degree at 28. So Uranus provides this, it's the unnecessary catalyst to this change, right? It's gonna that sextile is really easy, so you don't even it can get it done. It's gonna where Pluto is obsessive and compulsive. and it holds that ancient energy, and Uranus delivers that shock to just break the patterns, just break these patterns. And so that
Right.
sextile from Gemini indicates that that breakthrough comes through with the communication, your ideas, your networks, your sudden shifts and perceptions. So there's a lot going on, in this full moon on September 7th, but eclipse. And it's something, and like I say, the eclipse is, I think for all the ones out there, a sorrow series is a families of eclipse. These are they repeat themselves. These eclipses not just it's not a light feeling. It emphasizes more on accountability, facing what
Mhm.
has been avoided, and transforming your relationships, your responsibilities into something more authentic. It brings the release of old patterns, right? And new cycles. And these date back. This dates back all the way to 1917, 1935, 1971, 1989, and 2007, and now
Okay.
2025. So that kind of gives you an idea. What were you doing in 2007? This may have some kind of underlying flavor.
Yeah. Oh, I can definitely see that. And being in Pisces as well, Pisces is a very multifaceted sign. It's got this piece that's very creative. It's got this piece about especially when you get into the medical part that talks about it representing underserved populations, homelessness, immigration. So I would expect that there might be some immigration stories in the news, or people who are misplaced from their homelands, maybe something to do. We're going to hear some story, which wouldn't be surprising, about Gaza, or even here in the U.S. with some of the immigration stuff. But also people talking about that Sabian symbol, people in uniform, like doctors, like nurses,
Mhm.
all people of service fit within that, because that's that juxtaposition between Virgo and Pisces. Virgo is also service or duty oriented, but Pisces is that bigger vision of what are we doing with that service and with that duty. um I had a point there though that I was driving at, and I'm like, now where did it
I,
go in my mind?
I probably got you all goofed this rambling on. I mean, because like
No,
that's just
I love it.
so
I
much
love it.
fun.
No, it's wonderful. So as I've got a whole list of goodies. So hospitals and health workers, oh, sanitation, cleanliness of things. Cleanliness is more Virgo. Pisces is a little more messy, and that's what I was thinking about, Barbie.
Mhm.
It can be because Pisces energy really is boundaryless, you know?
Mhm.
It can be
Yeah.
the unraveling of things. So think about that fine lace. Pisces
Right.
unravels and things
Yes.
kind of fall apart. And so if you have a friend who's a Pisces, you may see they have a hard time with saying no. They have a hard time maybe getting to places on time. They get there late, or they have a hard time meeting up to a time frame, like you're supposed to meet for dinner at 6 and they show up at 6:45, and you're like, where have you been? And you love them anyway,
Yes.
but they
Yep.
kind of are, they have this like ebby flowy kind of quality. Pisces does. And it erodes boundaries. It's water is the biggest solvent there is. Think about rocks that have worn down, like in an ocean stream, or in any type of water, not an ocean stream, but an ocean, a river, or a stream, that smoothing process. So Pisces is smoothing something down. It might be unraveling something, it might be dissolving something, kind of bringing something apart, while you're also, Uranus, you were talking about, it's bringing in something new, and it's talking to Pluto, and Pluto's like, we're digging deep, we're going deep down, we're finding the gold. And then Mercury's up there with the sun, bringing insight and epiphanies and clarity. So you're going to see something. I think we're all going to see something, and it might be a small thing, it might be a big thing, but I think if you're watching for it, this eclipse energy over, from right now. Maybe you already saw it this week. You're going to learn something you didn't know before. You're going to get an insight and an epiphany. And, it could be something unravels for the good. It could be something
Yeah.
that maybe you were all hung up about. Virgo can be kind of a high strung sign. Virgo energy can be where anxiety lies, where we're just a little tense, and that Pisces may just help us kind of settle down a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that too. And but with that Uranus being there and it's activating that trying, you're going to be seeing that if you think of Uranus as it just entered into Gemini, and just
Mm-hmm.
for a little while, it's going to retrograde and go back for 5 months and come back out in 2026 in the spring. And
Didn't Uranus just go today?
oh
Wasn't it
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
today?
Yeah, it is.
Uranus?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It just went in. It just retrograde. But just so if you think about this, just beginning the retrograde, but and it's going to going back. But if you understand what it's had come out to in Gemini, and it got all this connecting, and so I was thinking also that when we think of Taurus, we think of the second house. And if we want to, to our audience, Taurus is the glimpse. It has the bull, right? It's the and it's your money matters, and it's related to your second house, the second home, and many other things. But it's your money matters and possession. But if you can kind of think of some things that can possibly happen, is we've been using paper money for so long, and we've turned now
Yeah,
going electronical, to all these other digital aspects to use.
right.
And I see that there's this ancient Pluto there maybe shifting things of this and saying that we need to make a change. And so when we do come back out, that the change might look like it may stick, right? It might stick, and that's what we do. We go into a change of our currency.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good point.
If
Because
you think
wasn't
of
there a news story recently about the penny being like taken out of circulation here in the
I
last
did,
few
I did,
weeks?
I did hear something not too long ago about they were starting to take see out of circulation, right? And so that was, and you see when a planet comes retro, comes into ingresses into a new sign, especially these long, these outer planets, they take a longer time to do their, and they come in, then they go back out, and then they come back in again later on, right? And so what
Sure.
they're doing is they're coming in and giving you a taste of what you're going to be seeing in the future. Just
Yes.
and
Yes.
so and you just hit hit it the penny, right? But then again, if you think of the penny, that's also got something to do with copper, and copper I would think would have to do with Mars. Mars rules copper. I wonder if Mars was involved when they did that penny shift. It just
Yeah.
I didn't keep
Could
up with
be.
that, but that was a good one. I didn't. But I heard about it, but I didn't, go. I didn't go check all
Well,
my,
and
I didn't
then
go check all my pennies to see if I had expensive.
well, and then this talent, this smaller trine that we have, some people have connected that to like the cryptocurrencies, the
Mhm,
electronic currencies, and with that
mhm,
energy, which is going to be flowing that way for, kind of off and on over the next year. This Pluto, if you look at the blue triangle at the bottom,
mhm.
it's Pluto and it's Saturn there at the head and Uranus, that may have something to do with, the electronic currencies one way or the other. So I don't know enough about it to be able to speak to it, but yeah, Pluto's definitely hanging out there in the second house and changing something to do
Yeah,
with our money,
yeah,
but
money, yeah.
also I keep going back though. We're at the North Node. Could that be our self-worth? Could that be
Yeah,
able
yeah,
that say, I need to make changes for myself? I can do more. I'm capable of more. I'm fed up with where I'm at right now, and I need to do something different, you know.
yeah. I also, and I don't know if you've looked where Chiron's sitting, in this, and Chiron sitting in the fourth house retrograde in Aries at 26 degrees 30. And so, you kind of think, In vibration astrology, we look at the Chiron as the truth in the matter, in cosmetic. Others, Western astrology, they look at Chiron more as the wound healer, right?
Right.
Where you're healing. And so in vibration astrology, it's what you actually are doing, and so if you look at Chiron as being more cosmetic or truth in the matter, and it's in Aries, it's either rebirthing something, or it could be initiating something that is got to do with your home, because it's sitting at the roots, the
Mm-hmm.
home, your generations, right? And and that's what it's doing now. Chiron in Western astrology would just say it's, it's the wound healer. And what would you think? What would you take about Chiron being there in that fourth house?
Well, definitely with that Piscean influence, like there's something there that needs dissolved, that needs resolved, that's something that needs to be kind of washed away or is getting washed away. So yeah, Chiron in Aries is like, okay, it's a fresh start at this. It's a fresh, we're doing something new, we're doing something different. Now, I've got this on a Placidus house
Mm-hmm.
system, so it's
Yes.
showing for me here in Cincinnati that Chiron's in the fifth house, but it's right there
Oh,
on
fifth
the
house.
cusp.
Oh, fourth
It's right
house.
there on
Yeah.
the cusp. So
Yeah.
if you're using whole house,
Um,
so it could be
yeah.
fourth or fifth house, but
Yeah. It could be fourth or fifth.
that your
Yeah.
fourth house, so but Saturn is there in fourth house, so something is changing in that fourth house, where something's being initiated, because Saturn just went retrograde and actually just went into Pisces here in the last week. There's
Mm-hmm.
unfinished business in that fourth house, and maybe Chiron is saying, yeah, we're gonna kind of move past that. This eclipse series may be like helping to move past that, and it's time to move on and get to the fifth house, and it's time
Right.
for a rebirth in a way. We need to recreate ourselves. We need that new version, that if we're not 2.0, maybe it's 3.0. I have a friend who
Right.
does these manifestation workshops, like women's empowerment, and how we can use the moon cycles to manifest things. And I just love that, and it just makes me think about that when I see Chiron there, like, oh yeah, like it's time to do things different. The old story is going, we're saying goodbye. We're saying goodbye to the
Mm-hmm.
old story. Sort of like if you've lived in your house your whole life, or maybe you've lived somewhere, those of you that know, you've lived somewhere for 10 years plus, and maybe you're buying a new house and you're moving and you've got to say goodbye. Like you want the new, but we're in this little period right now, this fall, up through the end of the year, where it's like, we're being asked to let go. We're being asked to, we can honor it, we can respect it, but there's a sense that there's definitely something new coming. And I think Chiron's helping, like leading the charge of that, saying, okay, you can heal from this old thing, you can appreciate it, and then we're going onward. We're moving onward.
Oh, absolutely. That's what, you have to get through it, to keep on going.
Well, and here's why I say that too, Barbie, because we got to talk about Jupiter here. And I said in the beginning that Jupiter is blessing the whole thing. If you look at Jupiter, you will see that there's a sextile up to the south node, and there is a
Mhm.
trine down to the moon and the north node. They're really, really close with the nodes. They're only 1 degree apart. It's 4 degrees from the eclipse, or from the full moon piece of it, but really close to the eclipse point. And then if you're just looking at this chart in a whole, so I always look at repeating things, like what's
Mhm.
repeating. Look at this, is a Sag rising chart. Who
Yeah,
is
I did
Sag
see that.
ruled by?
I did
Jupiter.
see that.
Then
In
here's the
Jupiter, yeah.
third repetition.
Mhm.
Look at the axis that this full moon is in. It's third and nine. That sun
Right.
is in the ninth house, which is a Sagittarian house, ruled again by Jupiter. So we're having
Mhm.
the same conversation. Jupiter is here saying, you can do this, a little internal cheerleader. You have that inner strength, you have that wisdom, you have that capacity to be able to move forward, and it
Yeah,
might be a little sad. It might be, Pisces energy can be a little like lingering. It can be, a little meandering, but anyway, I wax on. What do you have to say, Barbie?
well, I would say that, you're correct about, it's Sagittarius is the in your chart that you have Sagittarius as the, and then um as the ascendant, and then you have Jupiter, look over where Jupiter is at, but it's also giving a pretty to the moon, and you're looking at a 8-degree square, so it's challenging, right? It's pushing. It wants to do something. You've got to take action. So Jupiter is going to want to take action. That moon, to that full moon. Do you see that? You see where you got where Jupiter is at? What's your
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter? What the degree on your Jupiter there where you're at? I can't. I'm trying to look at it from here.
Oh, it's at 19 degrees,
Yeah,
Jupiter
19.
is.
Yeah, 19. Yeah. So, well, it's pretty wide. But you can give the moon up to, 10 to 15 degrees, depends on, where you're looking, because the moon's faster. So even if you gave it 10 degrees, you still can put Jupiter in that action, taken to the moon. Or the
Okay.
moon actually taking action to Jupiter, and Jupiter
Right.
expand and Jupiter expanding it. So Jupiter's not really going to be giving the expansion. The moon's going to be taking the action to Jupiter to expand it out, to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Well, would you say then that the moon is getting that intuition piece with it being in a water sign? That the moon is being led, it's more about the heart, maybe not so much the head.
Actually, yes, actually there, yeah, it would be more of, it would be more, if I would be thinking of it, it'd be more of something that would be more, if you think of Jupiter and it's, and not only does it give growth and expand, but it's also about philosophy, and it is about foreign countries. We have things going on with our foreign countries, and
Yeah,
it is,
definitely.
and then with the moon, with it being, the moon there, it could be have to do with homeland. So, and you did say
Mm-hmm.
something earlier about how that was all coming about. So there's some action going on there for sure.
So at the actual eclipse moment, when a 209, it is anytime we have an eclipse, it's kind of like a power outage for a moment. So imagining that if you didn't have a surge protector on your computer, could it blow up your computer? Well, sure, because it's like a lights out, no energy, and then all of a sudden lights on, lots of energy. And some people will say, oh, well, a solar eclipse is more powerful than a lunar eclipse, but a lunar eclipse really impacts our emotions. It has to do with our inner psychology, it's our drives and our motivations. So while it might seem that it's not as maybe visible, even though this one is happening in the middle of the day, you're like, well, the sun's going to be shining. Can't we see this? I think we can't. Can in some places. There's probably somewhere in the world where we can, but I do think that it is giving this extra little like behind the scenes power put like in our mind. And I say that because when I'm in Judith's book, which is a wonderful book, I recommend it, by the way, she's talking about the boundaries unraveling, but also the effects on swelling, on anything related to water in the body, like our blood. Like, if you're prone to, I can have this sometimes in the summer when it's really hot, like edema, where you've got that lymphatic fluid swelling, things are swelling up. Things are, during an eclipse, can also be like coming to a head. I think that this eclipse, something is building, and we have a square between Mars here is in my chart, if I'm looking at this right, Barbie, is square to
Yeah.
Jupiter. And so maybe we're not acting, or we can't act on the thing yet, and this thing is building, and we're really going to see more action on the next eclipse when we have the solar eclipse in uh,
September 23rd, I
Virgo.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, Virgo.
is it
Yeah.
the
I think it's the
uh
23rd. Yeah, is it?
it's
Yeah,
the
the
21st. I'm looking
21st.
on a calendar I've got. It's on the
Okay.
21st. So it's on a Sunday, 2 weeks from this Sunday. So they're generally 2 weeks apart. And think about whenever you're getting ready to make a change.
Yeah, it is the
So first you
21st.
feel it on the inside, and then is the external expression. And that's kind of how I'm seeing this. And so we talked about back to displacement and immigration and immigrants, people, and kind of not having a home or a sense of homelessness, which would go back to that Saturn and fourth house.
Mhm.
Um, Also, unemployment. There could be unemployment stories coming out. Definitely water stories of some sort, whether it's the ocean, rivers, seas. You want to watch your plumbing in your house. Um, and then also women and children and emotions and feelings, hospitals, health workers, sanitation. Maybe I said that already. And then emotionally, we want to be careful with stimulants. So if you take medication for something, it can be extra powerful at this time. So also being careful of like alcohol and drugs, extra potent during the eclipse. So think about this from, Saturday night into Sunday night when we're really in that, really close to that degree point. Um, it can also bring on, being in Pisces, a sleepy or tired feeling. Um, and I talked about swelling already. There can be kind of a depressive quality in the same way I said stimulants, but in the same way that alcohol is kind of a sedative, or like Benadryl. So I kind of think of this as, so you take Benadryl. I had an allergic reaction this summer to something. I didn't know what it was.
Mm.
I think it was something out in the yard,
Oh, God.
something in the grass or something. And I broke out in hives all over. And it was a Saturday night, and I took some Benadryl, and my husband had a drink, and he was like, "Do you want something?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I would like, it's Saturday night." And but then I said, "Wait a minute, I just took that Benadryl. Am I allowed to have anything?" And I look it up online, or one of us did, and we're like, "No, I better
Yeah.
not. That's too
Yeah.
much. It's too much on my system." And so that's kind of how I'm thinking about this. Like, it's too much on your system. So you need to kind of watch taking care of yourself and making sure that you don't overdo it, because you could also kind of wear yourself down. If you're starting to feel kind of low tomorrow or even on Sunday, it's time to rest. Pisces rules the 12th house, and that's the house of retreats. That's the house of, kind of hiding, of going away, of spending some time in solitude, of, quiet reflection, finding your inner caves, to meditate in for a while. So I could see us kind of falling into that while we're having our epiphanies and our thoughts and our ideas. Maybe we're not ready to act on it yet. And maybe we need to just think on it. We just kind of sit on it for a little bit. But something's definitely building. You may feel that building, ready to come to a head, but maybe just not ready to burst just yet.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I mean, it's got a lot going on. And right after you hear, if someone wants to join Astro Dice, that starts at 6.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
great. Oh, and
yeah.
Barbie, tell us, yes, because we're kind of coming to the end. Tell us about Nat 1 that you're going to be teaching this semester.
Well, that one, for beginners, it's not just a one. It's not a beginning course. You would go to basics. We have a basics. Unless you know your planets, your glimpse, the signs of the glimpse. That's knowing that Mercury, what the glimp is. If you know what that is, that's a symbol. Like the symbol and the
Mhm.
signs and their glimpse or the symbol. For those, and then the planetary rulerships for each. If you know some of that, if you kind of read, a little bit about it, or you are an astrologer, but you would like to go through and become a professional astrologer, Nat One course offers a great, beginning into the natal series. We start off with looking at the Great Circle, because you really need to know the celestial sphere, the equator, the ecliptic, the horizon, the zenith, and the nadir. You want to know how that is formed, and how did we get to the natal chart? How was this natal chart formed, right? And then we move on to planetary functions, and then from there we'll do some contemporary patterns, the Mark Edward Jones patterns.
Oh,
And so
okay.
that kind of gives you it's a blueprint you can kind of quick look at, and kind of give you some readings, for someone. And then from there we go into some more of, we look at the quadrants, because you take the natal chart and we split it into hemispheres and then quadrants. And then we move on to, we look more at the astrological houses, and we introduce you to the divisions and grouping these houses into pairs and the triangles. And then from there, we actually get further on, and we go into the major aspects. And, those are the aspects with the inconjunctions. And then we look at
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary for all that, because there are vocabulary that you need to learn, and there's a lot of it and a lot to digest. And you'll also learn about your essential dignities and debilities and rulerships. I mean, so there's much,
So
much,
important.
so important, and so much to digest. It's a wonderful 12 weeks. You have a final exam, but we do go over and re-review. You'll have some quizzes, and you'll have interaction with your students, where you can get onto a discussion board and look at that week's assignment and play around in the sandbox, so to speak. And then you'll have homework, and the homework kind of builds up and builds up and builds up. So when you get to the final, you kind of go, I got this, so that's what it's all about. And love to have you. You can register. You still have plenty of time to register. You just go to astrocollege.com, and you go over to where it says semester 2025, and there's a semester courses. Do you have anything else you want to add to that,
Oh,
Jen?
I just think it's a wonderful course, Barbie. I had so much fun, and I may be rejoining again to brush up on some of my skills, especially toward the end when we're talking about rulerships and strengths and weaknesses. And I know that you have a system of rating that I want to learn about, like what's the strongest of the planets, what are the weakest of the planets, and that
Right.
can be so, so helpful. I mean, I learned a lot to even just apply to my family, and my friends. And I'm like, oh, I didn't understand that before. So you might think you know astrology, but when you come in with the professionals, you all of a
Uh,
sudden you're shown a new world, and you're like, oh, that's how that all pieces together. Like there
right.
are dots still to connect. So
There's
that's what I would say. There's always more dots to connect, and we grow astrologers here at the International Academy of Astrology, and I
you
will be
do.
right there learning and growing with you. Barbie is an excellent teacher, and so I would just
And
encourage
then
you
we
come
have
join
many,
us,
many
come
more.
check us out.
We have plenty of beautiful astrologers that instructors here. We have some that have been doing it for 40 years, and some of them us that been doing it for 10, 12 years. Some of us only been doing 4, 2, 1 years, so we have a variety, but we have some excellent instructors here at Astro College, IAA, International
Yeah.
Astrology Academy. Because you play in the sandbox at Astro College, then you come on over to the college and really get nitty gritty.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, we know you've got to jump off and go over an
Yeah.
Astro Dice, which
Yes.
is, if you're hearing this after the fact, every other week we have a free session on Friday night, and it's a form of divination and learning astrology. So you can come and ask the dice a question, and it is completely free for our community here at Astro College. We are building a circle of friends, of people who want to speak the language, and this is how we learn when we play in Barbie Sandbox. So thank
Play
you
in my
for joining
sandbox. Yeah,
us.
thank you. Thank you
and
all for listening. And thank you,
and
Jen. And we wouldn't have this without you. We're very
oh, thank
blessed.
Thank you, Barbie. You're the wonderful teacher that we have to be able to start us on this journey. So it is a blessing that you found Astro College, the IA, and that you have continued to help foster the growth of all of the new teachers, students, practitioners of every level, and some of us just practice this, for our families and friends. And that's okay
Yeah,
too, because it's a
that's
way of
fine.
knowing what the heck is going on.
Yeah,
The world kind of feels like a dumpster fire at times right now. And so, how do you know what's coming next? Well, this is a way that you can start to get in the know and start to understand. And Virgo season is a great season to jump on and start to learn how all the pieces and parts fit together. So thank you
absolutely.
so much.
Thank you.
We
Thank
are
you.
so happy that you came. Thank you, Barbie, for
Yeah,
being
thank you.
here. It's always so much fun, and we'll see you again next month for the full moon meetup. You can sign up at astrocollege.com and take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
You too. Thank you.